Joint hearing, the Finance Committee and Global Opportunities Committee on Resolution 19007. Clerk, would you please read the title of the resolution?
Authorizing Council's Committee on Finance and the Committee on Global Opportunities and the Creative Innovative Economy to hold hearings regarding the development of a responsible financial plan to meet the city's requirement to adequately fund the Community College of Philadelphia as required by state law.
At this time, I will note that co-chair, Councilwoman Janie Blackwell is to my left, and Councilman Blondell Reynolds Brown is to her left. And with that, we can proceed the hearing. I will start with this statement. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania passed Act 484, known as the Community College Act of 1963. It mandated equal funding from three sources: the state, 1/3, the city, 1/3, and students, 1/3. Although there have been changes to Act 484, state law continues to call for at least 1/3 of the funding for community college to come from each community college's local sponsor, in this case, the City of Philadelphia. Because the city has not been meeting its mandatory minimum appropriations to Community College of Philadelphia for many years, students have been burdened with higher tuition costs. For this fiscal year, $134.7 million operating budget, students provide 55% of the revenue, while the state provides 24% and the city provides only 19%. The mayor's proposed municipal budget for fiscal year 2020, unveiled last week, falls $18 million short of the state-mandated third of community college's proposed operating budget. This hearing will critically examine why the City of Philadelphia has not been providing the minimum revenues required by the state to fund Community College of Philadelphia so that the city can begin the process of developing a plan to meet its financial obligation. Community College of Philadelphia is a vital asset of the city with approximately 27,729 students, and it is the city's responsibility to ensure that it has the resources to serve its students. Its role is crucial to strengthening the regional workforce in an increasing technological and global world. Therefore, it is an invaluable resource in our community in addressing some of the most pressing issues such as violence, homelessness, and addiction. Today, there are few people who have not heard about the skyrocketing costs of college tuition. As a father of 4 young children, I don't know what the costs of tuition are going to be. There are a lot of angst about it. There's a lot of statements made politically. But one of the things that we have in Philadelphia is Community College of Philadelphia, a wonderful institution that provides education, whether 4-year, 2 years, certificates, continuing education, career training, to people in our city at a very, very affordable cost. But the city has not treated community colleges with the kind of respect that it deserves for the job that it does for our city and can do. The city should look at community college, its faculty, its students, its resources, and ensure that we are meeting our obligations, not only now and in the future, but looking at the past funds that have not been provided to community college, which would provide the facilities, the technologies, the resources, so that students in Philadelphia would have an opportunity to have jobs, start businesses, become the kind of people they want to be. Community college is an answer to so many of the issues that we talk about in City Council. It is a positive thing we can do. It doesn't cost us very much. It is a proactive thing. It's not a Band-Aid. It is a solution. And with that, I will ask if there are any other statements that my colleagues would like to make.
I would like to commend Councilman O for this resolution and for his commitment to our community college. It makes such a big difference for our young people here and all people in our city. We're glad to have its president be here to testify and all others who are here. And again, we thank him for this resolution.
Thank you, Councilwoman. With that, I will throw out this number before we begin. In 2019, the shortfall is $19 million. In 2020, the shortfall is $18.2 million. The cumulative shortfall from 1998 to 2019 is $326.3 million. So with that, I'll ask the clerk to call the first panel.
Rob DeBoe, Director of Finance, City of Philadelphia.
Should I start?
Please state your name for the record and begin your testimony. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairs Blackwell and O, members of both committees. Rob Dubo, Finance Director for the City of Philadelphia. I'm here to testify on Resolution 190077, which calls for hearings regarding the development of a financial plan to adequately fund the Community College of Philadelphia. We agree Community College is a vital institution that makes higher education and certificate programs more affordable and accessible for Philadelphians, strengthening both our communities and regional workforce. To increase our support for CCP, Mayor's proposed budget calls for an additional $1.3 million a year in local investment, bringing the city's total contribution to $33.8 million annually. It means the city would be investing almost $170 million in CCP over the next 5 years. These additional resources will enable Community College to continue funding critical programs like Power Up Your Business, as well as to expand the dual enrollment program in partnership with the School District of Philadelphia. These investments support the city's workforce development strategy, fueling Philadelphia's talent engine. We look forward to discussing these investments with council members during the budget process, and that concludes my testimony. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions? Councilman Blackwell?
No.
Councilman Reynolds Brown?
This is very much on short notice, but it's always helpful to me to see the history, the historical perspective. So can you speak to what the percentage of increases have been, say, over the last 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, so over the last 5 years ago, our contribution was about $27 million.
Define what year that was for the record.
FY15, so
Okay.
5 years ago. It was $26.9 million, and this year it'd be $33.8.
It'd be 33.8.
Yeah.
Is it fair to see how our community college stacks up against similarly situated institutions around the country, just to see where we are, where we fall in the big picture?
Yes, yeah, that makes sense. We can do that analysis.
That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thanks.
And so can you plan for that when we move into the budget, when we get
You'd like to have
the
that before
marathon
community
going?
college testifies?
Yes.
Yes, understood.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Clerk, would you call the next panel, please?
Dr. Donald Generals, President, Community College of Philadelphia. Dr. Manuel Gonzalez Cache, Associate Professor, University of Pennsylvania.
That's okay. Would you please state your name for the record and begin your testimony?
Guy Generals, President for Community College of Philadelphia. First of all, let me thank you all for taking up this incredibly important topic. both for the college as well as the sector. I think the funding of community college and the lack thereof is sorely missed in our public discourse. So I commend Councilman O for taking this very important topic up. You pretty much read my my comments, which was the history that goes back about 56 years, 57 years. Act 484 laid out a one-third model for community colleges, a third to be provided by the state, a third by the local sponsor, and a third by the city. What I would like to pick up on, I don't think you spoke to were some of the changes in the law over time. So Act 484 was repealed in part and replaced in part by the Public School Code, which has since been amended many times. In 2005, Act 46 of 2005 amended the Public School Code and created a funding formula moving away from the original FTE model and used the base plus model that included the funding from the prior years plus amounts based on enrollment in traditional courses, enrollment in occupational courses, and multiple other factors. So there's base funding, and then there's a differential funding depending on the type of education you were providing. So that was 2005. However, the Commonwealth hasn't followed that funding formula since 2009, 2010, where it was changed again. Instead, the Commonwealth has made amendments to the Public School Code each year to distribute the Commonwealth's funding for its 14 community colleges based on a pro rata distribution of the prior year. So again, it's base funding based on the prior year's funding, plus a distribution of the dollars based on the enrollment in the size of the institution. I will state for the record, as of this moment right now, the state's allocation for community colleges, which comes through the commission, is 0. So I think that's something that needs to be spoken to. Nonetheless, although the Commonwealth changed one required contribution from the Commonwealth, the basic principle of students only paying a third still applies. So the total operating budget minus what the Commonwealth pays and minus 1/3 from the city in theory and law should be taken up by the city. Excuse me. The Commonwealth's, the total budget, operating budget of the college, minus what the Commonwealth provides, minus 1/3 from the students, that dividend, in theory as well as law, should be provided by the local sponsor. So obviously it would be much more than 1/3 at this point, and I think that's what we're here to talk about. I think the impact of community college is self-evident. We have demonstrated what our students do upon graduating. According to research that we have with the InConsult, we produce roughly $324 million. There's a $324 million impact on the city of Philadelphia, in part because of the wage premium from students who graduate and go on to receive better jobs, better family-sustaining jobs. We are involved in a host of anti-poverty programs, most of which are incorporated in the operating budget. So, for example, our dual enrollment right now, we carry a number of students through our dual enrollments where we only charge $99 as opposed to the full freight for those students, and we're serving about 1,200 students. We have a 50th college promise, which I'd like to speak to in a minute. We have a middle school program with Parkway Central, which is in part supported by the school district. We have an Office of Recovery Addiction, which provides certificates and works with the community on the opioid crisis here in Philadelphia. We have a reentry program, which has been very successful. I was here a couple of weeks ago to talk about the Power Up program, which data was provided to the council, pointing to the fact that over 10 years, $110 million will be added to the coffers of the city. It has a benefit of $2.8 million per year or over comparable businesses. So the point that I'm trying to make is that with the existing budget, there is an impact. And so I think that it's reasonable to say that with the added dollars that we're talking about, and given the level of poverty and the level of need in the city, that we could reasonably attack in a much more aggressive and a much more comprehensive way some of the challenges of the city. And I do want to again circle back to the idea of the promise programs. This is timely, this idea of students paying too much, even at a third, because right now 20 states in the, and you might have more accurate data because I know you do this for a living, but 20 states in the country are providing free tuition for community college students. That idea has caught on for the last, over the last couple of years. It really started with President Obama. It is not dead in the sector. It's still being discussed, and in various sectors, it's still being pursued. It's the realization that community colleges, like high schools 100 years ago, have become such a public good that the public really needs to put forth the dollars in order to support community colleges. As you know, Community College of Philadelphia has a last dollar program, which means after financial aid, we will pick up whatever the costs are for any student that graduates of Philadelphia High School. At this point, about since 2015, 928 students have benefited from that program. $750,000 have been spent. All of those dollars are coming from private donations. Their graduation rate of that first cohort is 24%, which exceeds the college's graduation rate. So the idea that students that are supported, that don't have to worry about the burden of tuition and cost and books and childcare and food and a place to live can succeed is something that is proven out by the data. And I want to thank the committee for taking up this challenge.
Thank you very much. We'll have both witnesses testify before we open up for questions. Would you
Hello,
please
can you hear
state your name for the record and please pull the microphone very close to you, that way our stenographer can get you.
Great, thank you. Well, my name is Manuel González Canche. I'm an associate professor at the Graduate School of Education at the University of Pennsylvania. I study finance, price competition, price dependence, community colleges, and gap closing actions. I would like to start by making a statement. Funding for community colleges is not an expense, it's an investment, which is reflected in this approach that the College Promise programs have been developing across the nation recently. So, community colleges continue to be the most important access point to higher education in the United States of America, with at least 40% of all first-time in college students. More importantly, these institutions take pride in welcoming students who predominantly come from lower income and underrepresented in higher education backgrounds. These students include minoritized, Hispanic, African American, Native American students, first generation in college, financially constrained, and most of the time they are welcoming to academically underprepared or challenged students. Community college students not only have access to quality education, but such an education is much more affordable, costing a third of the amounts charged by public four-year institutions on average nationwide, and only 1/10 of the tuition and fees charged by private not-for-profit four-year colleges. Despite some criticisms related to lower levels of educational attainment of two-year entrants compared to the initial four-year counterparts, it is important to note that community colleges traditionally have access to significantly fewer monetary and non-monetary resources than four-year institutions. These disparities in resources include, but are not limited to, fewer financial resources, fewer full-time faculty, and fewer students who are attending full-time. In short, and directly related to this hearing, community colleges continue to educate 53% of students attending public institutions and 84% of all part-time undergraduate students. Remarkably, they do so with about 20%, again nationwide, 20% of the state support received by their public four-year counterparts. In the state of Pennsylvania, all community colleges combined operate with about 27% of the budget granted to state-affiliated or state-owned four-year institutions. In the city of Philadelphia, the Community College of Philadelphia, CCP, operates with 24% of the state appropriations given to Temple University, for example, 24%. It is worth noting that the net tuition revenue at CCP is only about 3.6% of the same amount charged by Temple. I will elaborate on this more. Although the total headcount at CCP reported as of 2015 is about 60% of the total headcount reported by Temple, we know that Temple effectively generated, as of 2015, almost $20,000 in tuition and fees per student. The same amount generated at CCP is $1,600 if we count part-time and full-time students, and $2,500 if we only count full-time students. Again, compared to the nation averages, I mentioned before that community colleges cost at least a third. In the case of CCP, cost an eighth of the price that would cost them to go to Temple. In sum, CCP operates with about a quarter of Temple's state appropriations and generates about 10% of the revenue raised by Temple in tuition and fees, even after accounting for differences in their student body sizes and full-time equivalents. I want to also highlight that there is enough evidence nationwide that attending a community college and pursuing a 4-year degree afterward will translate in 10% less debt accumulation. And if we don't fund these institutions properly, the students will need to rely on more debt to afford the tuition costs and tuition and fee costs that attending a college will entail. These students typically are, as I said, financially constrained, so we cannot rely on them to fund these institutions. Once more, funding for community colleges, funding for CCP is not an expense, it's an investment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? No questions, and I will have just a couple of questions myself. When I look at Montgomery County Community College, and I've been invited up there a couple of years ago, and I look at how the county deals with Montgomery Community College and what they get back for it. Can you give us some comparisons between the investment that they are making in Montgomery County versus what we're doing here in Philadelphia, and what are the impacts of that?
Well, I know Montgomery Community College, in terms of the student demand, does not have the level of burden that Philadelphia Community College does. There are neighborhoods, there are students, there are pockets of students with extreme needs, but that's more, and again, I don't have the data, so I want to qualify my statement, but knowing their president and knowing their experiences there, they do not have nearly the level of students who have levels of impoverished conditions, whether it's educational, being educationally disadvantaged, having economic disadvantages. And so I'm not quite sure what their operating budget is. I know it's lower than ours is, so I think if you calculate it on a per student basis and figured out a way to calculate that demand as one of the variables, I would say that the obligation that we have goes, far exceeds theirs, and therefore the impact is greater, but the responsibility is greater as well. And I'm not sure that it's a fair comparison.
Yeah, my point is that they're a smaller institution that the Montgomery County has provided greater revenues, and it appears to have a more positive impact because of the greater revenues in Montgomery County and the region.
Yeah, if I may add to that, community colleges traditionally serve local students who live within, on average, 12 miles away from the institution. So investment, once more, in community colleges is an investment in that localized place, rather than trying to attract the students from other states or other cities.
I know they have better facilities in terms of some of the centers that they have, that I know.
I visited their $1.3 million audio engineering facility, brand new.
Right.
With a Grammy-nominated engineer and all kinds of, and there has been debates up in Montgomery Community College over the large amounts of funding they are putting into the college, which I think is a great debate to have, putting more money into your community college. No other questions, and thank you very much. Clerk, I'd ask you to call the next panel.
Michael Kidd, student, Community College of Philadelphia. Justin Keller, alumnus, Community College of Philadelphia. Margarita Simmons, student, Community College of Philadelphia. B. Logo Roman, student, Community College of Philadelphia.
I'll try to speed it up. Okay.
You ready?
All right, would you please identify yourself for the record and give us your testimony?
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Kidd. I'm a student at CCP.
Yes, please go on.
Okay. I want to tell you why CCP is very important to me. My name is Michael Kidd. I'm about to graduate from CCP with a 3.0 GPA. I have been accepted to Chestnut Hill and LaSalle. I'm making this decision because I plan on studying criminal justice. I'm here today to share my story and encourage the council to fully fund CCP in order to help create the conditions for more students to succeed as I have. I've come a long way. I went to Bach Techno High School in South Philly, the school that was shut down and now has artist studios and a rooftop bar. I started getting in trouble with the law at the age of 17. I wanted money. It seemed like everyone around me was participating in illegal activities to get it. Such behavior was normalized, and I didn't see myself as a college type at that time. College wasn't what I was striving for. I have served federal time, state time. I was locked up for a total of about 13 years out of my life. When I got out the last time in about 2013, I was on federal parole, and they sent me to the RISE program, which then connected me to CCP. Initially, I was enrolled in a reentry program because I was told it would help me get off probation and get a job. But then with the help of professors who believed in me, I started to realize school wasn't that bad. I was a terrible writer, but I knew I understand the answers. I just realized that I had potential and I was developing ambition to strive to be the best, and I kept putting in the work. The more I stayed in school, the more positive things happened in my life. For one, going to CCP helped me get a job I have today, which I've had the same employment for over 4 years. I'm setting a good example for my daughter, who I have primary custody of, and who will be starting school in September at Stroudsburg University, and plan on being a pediatrician. I have a healthy relationship with my girlfriend, and she has decided to go back to school herself. School has helped me have balance, and and actually this is the happiest time in my life. I have been out of prison for 4 years. CCP has helped me change my direction. More importantly, it has changed what I thought was possible. At this point, I don't know what I would do without school. Even though my professors encouraged me to be the best and continue with school, and even though I now understand what it takes to succeed, sometimes I still can't believe I'm about to get a degree. And it's mind-boggling, but I can actually say I did a 180. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Please state your name for the record.
Hello, good morning. My name is B. Lugo Roman. I'm an English student at CCP. City Council, my fellow educators, professors, and students alike, thank you for allowing me to speak here today. This meeting is of great importance to everyone, and I hope my words really resonate with you. Community college is for students who can't get into a real university. Is that who you want to be? My high school teacher told me this when I was questioning the prestigious university I was slotted to go to, so I didn't apply. I didn't want to be a stupid CCP student, so instead I went to that four-year university where my professors didn't represent the students at all. I left, came back to Philadelphia where I had to deal with the debt I accrued from that college. And I thought the process of getting my education is more important. I thought it was going to be easy because I had done this all before, going through college and experiencing that sort of thing. I've done it all before, but boy, was I wrong. I've never been so challenged, so engaged, but also so encouraged. This single-handedly is all due to my professors. I have experience in education as well, so I have a dual perspective in this subject. I've come to realize the importance of supporting educators, especially people at CCP, is to support the students. To support the students is to support our city, our nation, our world. You can imagine it's of great importance. In 1963, at CCP's inception, a promise between the state, the city, and the people who founded CCP promised to give a third of the operating costs, as people have mentioned throughout this meeting today. The promise was to support the school, educators, and students by funding the operating costs. While breaking this promise, the city has stimulated a situation in which the school board and the administration is seeking to cut compensation while simultaneously increasing the workload of our professors. With an increased workload, how can a professor be expected to provide high-quality education without giving proper compensation? To this, I have no answer. However, regardless of that, the City Council can make a real difference here. The city, specifically you council members, can carry out your civic duty and support the community college. I have a responsibility in my own profession to support educators, and I believe that the City Council has the same civic duty. However, CCP is not thriving right now. We need the support of our city to thrive. As you can see from our signs that we have before us, CCP works because we do. Most of the students who attend CCP, all of the students I know, haven't been fulfilled by the Philadelphia public school system, especially minority students such as myself and the previous testimony from before. Our college provides a high-quality education and support from faculty that I've seen nowhere else. It acts as the first, second, and even third chance for people to educate themselves and succeed. So make things right and support the educators of future generations. You, the City Council, honestly cannot afford not to. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Would you please identify yourself for the record and provide us your testimony? And please pull the microphone up real close so the stenographer can record you.
Hi, my name is Justin Keller. I'm a former U.S. Army paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne Division, but more importantly, I'm the CCP 2013 Male Athlete of the Year recipient and record holder in the mile there. Hopefully that record still stands. I wanted to take this time today to share how meaningful the Community College of Philadelphia has been in my own personal development, but also to implore the powers that be to properly support and fund the institution so that it can continue to be a lifeline for so many in the Philly community. I wasn't kidding about holding that CCP track record. I'm originally from just outside of Harrisburg, PA, where I was a state champion in high school cross country. I got recruited to run at LaSalle University, prompting me to move to Philly for the first time almost 13 years ago now. But by winter break of my sophomore year, I'd stopped attending classes and subsequently dropped out in poor academic standing due to my own lack of motivation and discipline. This led me ultimately to join the Army, where I spent 4 years as an airborne infantryman, spending one of those years in the Al Anbar province of Iraq. When I was honorably discharged, I moved back to Philly with no plan outside of using my GI Bill to go to Temple University, the only school I applied to. And due to my grades at LaSalle, I was, of course, rejected. Temple's only advice was maybe try to improve my grades at community college and then reapply. Up to that point, I'd never even heard of CCP, but prompted by Temple, I enrolled in the fall semester of 2012. I told some friends about my plans who only laughed, "Damn, not CCP, that place sucks." With that as my only review, I was understandably apprehensive, but I attended anyway, only to find out that CCP was an unbelievable school, catering to a broad and diverse student body. I studied a foreign language for the first time, I ran track and played baseball, I studied abroad, I thrived at CCP and made Dean's List. I reapplied to Temple and was accepted with academic scholarship to boot. CCP was a second chance for me, an opportunity at redemption after having squandered school the first time. But I was lucky. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a financially stable community where the public schools were well-funded and academically challenging. And with all the resources in my corner, I still somehow found a way to mess it up. You can imagine how much more difficult it would be growing up in a different set of circumstances. My classes at CCP exposed me to the level of educational privilege I have been lucky to grow up in. Many of the students were often ill-prepared and struggling to keep up with the coursework, sometimes to the level of frustration and even anger, even when it was clear that they were intelligent people. Many of them were responsible for taking care of their families or working full-time while also attending classes. Due to no shortage of will or intelligence, many were simply failing to keep up with their course load. And it was the faculty that picked up the slack, making time outside of class to teach, mentor, and otherwise hold themselves accountable to the education of their students. But of course, that takes a toll on the faculty. Having been in a few different schools now, I can say that the commitment this faculty shows to its students is nothing short of extraordinary, but also necessary due to the incredible financial and educational inequalities this city faces. That CCP track record I mentioned before was only a stepping stone for me. I never stopped racing and recently became the fastest person in the world to walk the full length of South America, 7,000 miles across the Andes. This feat is the direct result. I can honestly say this feat was the direct result of my time at CCP, where I took my first ever Spanish classes at 25, literally starting out as basic as the alphabet. My professor in this class strongly encouraged me to participate in CCP's study abroad program, which in 2013 traveled to Peru. I had never even considered doing such a thing. It was in fact the first time I'd ever even been outside the country, if you don't count Iraq. And it was there where I conceived of this dream to cross the continent on foot. So the future of CCP seems personal to me because it helped solidify my own future. This city not only needs but deserves a robust, thriving community college that we can be proud of, not one that carries the unfortunate stigma that it does. For those like me who need a second chance, and especially for those who never got the first chance they deserved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Clerk, would you call the second panel?
I do have a comment.
Oh, I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Sponsor.
Councilman
Yes,
Rondell Reynolds
please.
Brown.
Moments like this, I don't like to see pass by. Woody Allen said that 80% of life is about showing up. I want to thank the three of you for showing up. Your personal testimonies were heartfelt, and to your last statement, stated very eloquently. Reread that for me, the last gentleman that spoke. Yes, with regards to folks wanting and needing.
I said that this city deserves and needs a robust, thriving community college. And it's not just for those like me that need a second chance, but especially for those who never got the first chance that they deserve due to educational inequality.
Agreed. So the fact that your stories are amazing. And I've learned very, very early on where you start out has nothing to do with where you end up. Much success to you all. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Clerk, please call the third panel.
Jamie Zigorelli, English professor, Community College of Philadelphia. Yusefa Smith, math professor, Community College of Philadelphia. Randy Libos, physics professor, Community College of Philadelphia. Marisa Johnson Valenzuela, English professor, Community College of Philadelphia.
Thank you very much. If everyone would please have a seat. I'm just going to let everyone know, that we do have public comment. There's 12 people signed up, so we're starting to face the clock. I'm not trying to shorten your testimony, but please, just keep in mind we have a lot of folks to get through. All right. Thank you very much. Would you please state your name for the record and start with your testimony?
Hi, I'm Yusefa Smith, and I'm a math instructor at CCP and a Philadelphia resident. And I wanted to share, my grandmother graduated from CCP in 1981, the same year I was born. She raised me, and she taught me financial responsibility. One thing she told me was, you don't take loans going to CCP. You get grants, and you work to pay the rest, and you leave debt-free. And she told me that you go to undergrad, and you leave debt-free. So with that, I want to talk about our students and their great needs inside and outside of the classroom. I was a student with great needs inside and outside of the classroom. Unfortunately, our students are faced with inequitable learning environment at CCP2. Faculty and staff continuously advocate for changes that improve learning conditions for our students, and one of those changes needs to be reduced class sizes. CCP's college math classes have a class maximum of 36 students. I teach college algebra, and my classes are full at the start of the semester, meaning 36 students full. However, this same class at Monco has a max of only 28 students, and Bucks, a max of only 27. Ironically, Monco and Bucks are suburban community colleges with less students in poverty and less students of color. In CCP's computer science classes, our class size limit is 36 too. Monco caps their computer science classes at 20. Bucks caps theirs at 22. Why does CCP permit almost double the size for a field that's growing? Our instructors do our best to reach all students, but it's just not possible with class sizes that large. This disparity exists in developmental courses too. Developmental courses are not college-level courses. In general, these courses have lower class limits than college-level courses. At CCP, developmental English is capped at 20 students. However, at Monco, it is 16 students, and at Bucks, it is 15. When comparing classes in other disciplines at CCP, the story is the same. We are stuffing more students per class to the detriment of all students. Educational quality at CCP suffers, and this is not fair to the students at CCP. We need class sizes at CCP lowered, and that takes money. The instructors at CCP understand that the students are diverse in their academic readiness. They maintain part-time and full-time jobs, just as my grandmother did, sometimes multiple jobs, care for their children, all while attending school. We aim to know our students and work with their individual needs. This funding crisis makes it impossible to meet our students where they are. We need lower class sizes, and we need more money to do it. If the city of Philadelphia does not honor its commitment to CCP, it further compounds the disadvantages our students already face. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would you please identify yourself for the record and provide us with your testimony?
My name is Randy Libros, and I'm a faculty member at Community College of Philadelphia. I actually came to the college not from academia, but from industry. I had worked as a biomedical equipment technician, repairing medical equipment at hospitals such as Einstein Medical Center, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and Jefferson University Hospital. And though I enjoyed my work in the hospitals and could have certainly been very happy continuing in the field, when I had the opportunity to teach at CCP, I decided to take a small cut in my pay and benefits to see if I liked teaching. And I guess I did, because that was 28 years ago. Most of my career at CCP has been involved with workforce development programs, specifically in technical areas. Over the years, I've met with representatives of a wide range of industries, including oil refineries, oil refining, nanotechnology, biotechnology, and biomedical equipment technology, and solar energy, to name a few. And I've learned some important lessons along the way. I'm not particularly a fan of technical training. We need to provide technical education. Education goes beyond just how-to training. That gives students skills that may be useful today, but may become obsolete in a few years. Industry representatives have consistently said that they want students who have the ability to really understand not just what they're doing, but why they're doing it, so they can problem solve, troubleshoot. They need to develop those critical thinking skills. They need to be able to grow and evolve as the technology evolves. They want employees who know how to work as part of a team and understand their responsibilities as employees. But also, we're not just doing this for our industry partners. Our real commitment is to our students, and we need to make sure that they have access not just for a job for today, but for a career that's going to be sustainable. One program that I've been very involved with developing is in biomedical equipment technology, we've been very successful in getting students placed in jobs. We have a program where after a one-year certificate, students are eligible to work, and about 50% at that one-year mark do go into work. About 70% of the students in the program continue on to a second year and the associate's degree. Starting pay for these students ranges $35,000 to $45,000 per year with benefits, with excellent opportunities for advancement. Keys to success: very strong ties with industry, mentoring students to help them navigate the challenges of being successful, and ensuring that we provide students with both strong hands-on and academic experience. The program has changed the lives of students. Just ask the former bike messenger who has now been working in the field for almost a year, or the former bouncer who is now earning basically what our new entering faculty earn with a two-year degree. And about $20,000 a year more than what I was paid when I started. My typical work week is about 45 to 50 hours long. I've heard mentioned that, that faculty are only in the classroom for 12 hours a week, but that leaves out the hours we spend preparing, grading, and supporting students, in my case, developing lab experiences, grading lab reports, and helping students not only with course content, but with study skills and personal challenges. In our current contract negotiations, you may be aware that our administration says that for financial reasons, they have to increase the workload of new faculty by 25%. But if that happens, what do we lose? If I had to teach an additional course, an additional 25%, I wouldn't have had time to bring in about $600,000 in grant money, which I brought in over the last 5 years or so. We would not have a biomedical equipment technology program. We would not be about to start launch courses in 3D printing and additive manufacturing and nanotechnology, and we wouldn't now be developing a partnership with the solar energy industry, the school district, and the city of Philadelphia to work towards a solar technician program. And I wouldn't have time to sit with students who really need the assistance in terms of study skills, in terms of learning differences that students have, or the student who sought advice regarding a sexual harassment situation, and on and on. The opportunities that are presented that are made available by CCP provide not only a way to enter sustainable careers. It's not just a pathway out of poverty, but it's a pathway that's paved in hope. And I see, and as I talk about this, I see the faces of students who I've talked to over the years, who have faced challenges of drugs, past incarceration, physical and mental health issues. These are not abstract. These are very real, concrete issues. For this pathway to grow and remain robust, faculty needs the time to provide support to students, to keep current in with changing technology, and to keep both existing programs up to date, and to develop new programs as new technologies and employment opportunities arise. I know I'm not unique in working 45 to 50 hours a week. Most of my colleagues have similar work weeks. Adding another course to the teaching load for new faculty will over time degrade the quality of education at CCP, and our students deserve better than that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. right, please identify yourself for the record and provide us with your testimony.
Hi, I'm Jamie Zigarelli. I'm an assistant professor of English at Community College of Philadelphia. And I have to apologize in advance. I'm down to my last cough drop and I'm out of water and I've got this terrible cough. So
Okay,
I'm gonna
we
do
do
my
have
best.
some water over there. I get it myself.
I'm going to
once
do
in
my
a
best.
while.
I think
Yeah.
I'll be fine. Thank you. Thanks for taking this up today, Councilman O, and thank you everyone who came out today. So according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, per student funding in Pennsylvania is today 33% below the levels that it was at in 2008. Only 5 states have enacted deeper cuts. 20 years ago, the state provided a third of the revenue for CCP's operating budget, and today it supplies less than a quarter. This year, if the state met its 1/3 obligation, it would have supported the education of the citizenry with $43.5 million. CCP received around $31 million. So that's a $12.5 million tab that's going to be picked up by our students. It's been over 35 years since 1983 when Dr. J last led the Sixers to the NBA championship. My students don't even know who he is. It's been so long. Since the city met its 33% obligation. So this year, the city's $18 million short, and that's another $18 million bill for our students. So when you combine the $12.5 million tab that the state failed to pick up with the $18 million, our students are looking at a $30.5 million bill this year alone. If you start adding these bills up, you quickly find yourself in the mid-9 figures. Councilman O stated over the last 20 years, it's $326.3 million. I think pushing this burden onto our students, the majority of whom are low income and from historically underserved backgrounds, is far more than they should have to bear. Over the last 10 years, tuition and fees at the college have risen 26.5%. Our students are supplying 56% of the operating revenue, which is well above their 1/3 obligation. So how do they pay the additional $30.5 million on top of their $43.5 million obligation? It surprises people to learn that at CCP, 44% of our students are taking out student loans. This is the dark underbelly of underfunding. Pennsylvania ranks 51st in average student debt. How 51st? Because we're even behind the District of Columbia, the land of expensive degrees and elite educations. Last year, we enrolled 24,000 students in credit courses. Over 10,000 of those students took out loans to pay for their education. And each year, out of that 10,000, 19%, 1,900 students are going to eventually find themselves in default. To put that number into context, 1,900 is also the number of students that graduate from the college each year. It's my sincere hope that one day I can return here after we're fully funded and report to you that we have 0 defaulters and 3,800 graduates. So on top of placing an undue financial burden on our students, the second problem, which some of my colleagues and the students who testified have spoken to, is that underfunding hurts educational quality. So right now, the administration is proposing that full-time faculty teach more students each semester than professors at other area community colleges. And they claim that this is a national standard. It's not. It's a national scandal. It's been normalized because of disinvestment in higher education, but it's a race to the bottom mentality. Community colleges like CCP, where the historically underserved attend, are chronically underfunded, and underfunding leads to undereducating. So let me give you a concrete example. I'm an English professor. If I teach at Temple, I'm responsible for the education of 69 students a semester. If I teach at Bucks, it's 80. Drexel, 82. Montco, 95. Right now at CCP, I teach 96 students a semester. But the administration is proposing that I teach 120 students a semester. So notice that this is nearly twice as many students as the 69 a professor teaches up Broad Street at Temple. The Temple student's going to get nearly twice as much of his or her professor's time as I'm able to give one of my students. So in our city, 26% of residents and 37% of people under 18 live in poverty. We lag behind other big cities in educational achievement. In the 15 largest cities in America, 40% of residents have at least an associate's degree. In Philadelphia, only 30% of residents have completed at least an associate's degree. According to a recent Pew report on CCP, if we were able to increase degree attainment in the city by 1%, just get to 31%, I'm not even talking about 40, we would increase regional income by $4.4 billion. By extension, if we could get to 40%, the nationwide average, we would boost regional income by $44 billion. So investing in the education of Philadelphians would return an unprecedented windfall of revenue to the city, and it would restore a public good that's in danger of being lost. The students you've heard from today are exceptional. They've beaten the odds. At CCP, our students come disproportionately from the poorest zip codes in the city. And so in closing, I just want to ask you to consider something that Hazim Hardiman, a North Philly product, a CCP graduate, a Temple graduate, and now a Rhodes Scholar studying at the University of Oxford, said in a profile of him that appeared in the Philadelphia Inquirer. He said, "Don't be happy for me that I overcame these barriers. Be mad as hell that they exist in the first place." And so I ask that you be mad as hell, and that you act on your righteous anger and fully fund Community College of Philadelphia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would you please state your name for the record?
Yeah, hello. My name is Marissa Johnson Valenzuela, and I'm an assistant professor in the English department at CCP. And similarly to Jamie, I'm doing double duty. He was an accountant / money numbers guy today, in large part, as well as being an English professor. And I am here for the first time at a hearing, and I'm actually, can I ask a question of you? Are people supposed to be here?
So let me tell you that we have a resolution, and that we have the council members here. There doesn't have to be a certain number. There's usually a quorum. Our last hearing, there was a quorum. What is happening, however, is you are being recorded right now, both by a stenographer and on camera, and you're being televised. So there are people actually who watch you, and we do preserve the video testimony. And from your testimony, the next question is, what action item do we take? So you can go ahead and please know that your testimony makes a difference.
Well, I was going to make a joke about how there were just as many people running for city council as city council members here today, but it's actually now you're outnumbered. And I know that people have a lot of things, and Janie Blackwell, I live in your district, so I'm glad to see you. You're doing the right thing here. And thank you, Councilman O. But I was surprised. I mean, I was trying to figure out what was going on and preparing for this, but especially in an election year, I'm like, wow. I think one thing for those watching at home or in their offices, that the reason so many people came today, and we have students who we got to come, a couple of people took a day off of work to be here, and the reason faculty are here, even though I have to go back and teach till 9 p.m., is because this really matters. And I think it's also because so many people, 12 people are signed up to speak, is because we want to be heard by city council, and we want to be heard by the city, right? Everybody I've talked to over the time, the very quick turnaround to try to prepare for this hearing has said what a shame it is that we even have to do this, right? And I feel like a teacher who's talking to the 2 students who showed up about attendance. So I apologize if it feels like a lecture, because I don't mean to be lecturing you. But it's definitely a thing that's resonated again and again, is that it's a shame that we even need to be here, and that we're not working with our leaders better. We are here to fight for dignity for our students, and for ourselves. And that is the thing that keeps coming up again and again. And I, again, just want to thank everybody who made time to be here today, and all the speakers. Michael Kidd, former student of mine, totally nervous, not sure he wanted to do this. But I knew that his story, right, as somebody, I'm also here as somebody who used to do social work in the city. I used to work with families involved with DHS, and then I also used to work with teens on probation. So I do understand poverty, I think in a unique way, having been into so many homes across this city. And the key things are access to education, access to dignified labor, right, and access to self-worth. And I think those are the things CCP excels at, right? And that's where, we're reaching across the aisle here, Councilman O, on agreement on those things. And so, I just really wanted to say that. I know there was a lot of people speaking. The last thing I will just kind of note, I know folks have said it, is I don't understand how it is that the city of Philadelphia last paid its fair share in 1983. You were only 2 years old. I was 5. Right? And also, students have to pay back their student loans. You just talked about that, right? They're held to their commitments. And maybe again, this is my failure to understand the situation, but why doesn't somebody hold the city accountable? Why doesn't somebody hold the state accountable to its promises? And so, yeah, that's what we're here to do today, and I thank you for this time. It's the political will to do this, and I don't know if anybody, since 1983, I don't know if it's been done, so thank you.
No, thank you. I'll just interject this much. The process of trying to get the city, at least, to comply with its obligation is what we're doing now.
Okay.
However, it comes down to a vote.
Mm-hmm.
And like all things, no matter how much we think it is etched in stone in the law, if we don't get enough votes to get a bill out or something that the administration does, there is no money for community college. So that part will also fall upon all of you to ensure that of the many, many things that people want, that if you believe, as I do, and Councilman Blackwell, that funding community college has got to be one of our top priorities in this city, that of all the things we could fund, that this is a very important thing to do, then we can get it done. If not, it's not going to happen.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'll keep
Next
doing
panel,
double duty.
please.
Thank you.
Devin Spear, Executive Director, Philadelphia Jobs with Justice. Steve Newman, President, Temple Association of University Professionals. Ebony Wortham, Supervisor, Philadelphia District Attorney's Office.
All right. Would you please state your name for the record and provide us with your testimony?
Try and keep it short since we're in a hurry. Good afternoon, Chairman Blackwell, Chairman Owen, members of the Committees on Finance and Global Opportunities and Creative Innovative Economy. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on such a pressing issue for working Philadelphians. My name is Devin Spear, and I am the Executive Director of Philadelphia Jobs with Justice. We are a coalition of labor unions and community organizations. We believe in long-term multi-issue coalition building, and we believe that by engaging a broad community of allies, we can win bigger victories for working families. Together, we fight for the fair treatment of workers in Philadelphia. For decades, the Community College of Philadelphia has been the only affordable pathway to higher education that is available to working Philadelphians. An institution like CCP is an incredibly precious resource, especially in the poorest big city in the country. However, although CCP has been enormously successful in achieving its mission in many ways, the city of Philadelphia has never quite delivered on its financial obligations, as we have discussed. This year alone, CCP is owed over $30 million. Furthermore, it's unacceptable that the CCP administration wants to close that gap on the backs of students, faculty, and staff. The same conditions that faculty and staff are working in are the conditions that students are learning in, and we owe the entire CCP community the dignity of full funding and fair contracts. As an organization that fights for the rights of working people in this city, our membership is deeply concerned that the dual threats of underfunding and austerity at CCP will cause irreparable harm to our city. Institutions like CCP are the first line of defense against rising income inequality, and we urge everyone here today to consider the disservice we are doing to ourselves by failing to stand up for the CCP community. Thank you again for your time.
Good afternoon. My name's Steve Newman. I'm an associate professor of English at Temple University. Distinguished members of City Council, I'm honored to be here today representing nearly 3,000 faculty members, librarians, and academic professionals in the Temple Association of University Professionals, AFT Local 4531. I rise to urge you to fund adequately one of our city's most important institutions, the Community College of Philadelphia. Now, I've been teaching at Temple for nearly 20 years, and one thing that experience has taught me is something that so many of my colleagues also know, that many of our most dynamic and best prepared students come from CCP. They remind us why Temple's mission to provide access to higher education is so vital. And much has rightly been made lately of Hazim Hardiman, the first Rhodes Scholar from CCP and Temple, but he is only one of countless CCP success stories. Just last year, I had the joy of having, a CCP alumna in a British Lit course. Her name is Autumn Long, and she is one of the strongest students I have seen in years, graduate or undergraduate. And when I asked her about her experience at CCP, she replied, "Nearly all of my professors at CCP were brilliant people and excellent teachers. I was an underachiever in all aspects prior to my time at CCP. But through the rigor of the curriculum and the support I received from professors inside and outside of class time, my entire life changed." CCP gives so many different kinds of people the opportunity to become strong candidates for other colleges, for jobs, for the responsibilities of life in general. And this isn't by chance. It is because the professors there work so hard despite circumstances which are largely taken for granted elsewhere. More eloquently than I could, Autumn makes the case for the city to live up to its responsibility to fund CCP properly. And while we at TAUP, my union, know we have an ally in Mayor Kenny in so many ways, the increase in his proposed budget comes nowhere near to the additional $18 million needed. We understand that the city has many urgent needs that require increased funding, but CCP must be, as Councilman O stated, at the top of that list. Yes, it prepares students for the workforce, and that's crucial, but more than that, the faculty and staff there help students from remarkably diverse backgrounds to think and write and create more broadly and deeply. Their time gives them a stronger sense of themselves. It elevates their dignity in a world that all too often does not value them as they should be. It gives them a way to imagine brighter futures for themselves and for our city. It is astounding, really, how much the hardworking faculty, staff, and students at CCP accomplish with the meager resources provided to them by the state and the city as part of a larger, catastrophic disinvestment in public education. But as the current labor dispute at CCP reveals, there is only so much they can do without proper funding, and only so long they can and should tolerate the disrespect being shown to their efforts by the administration, and TAUP stands in solidarity with them in that fight. Properly funding CCP, along with a mandate that the bulk of that funding go toward its core mission of educating students, would go a long way toward resolving this crisis and avoiding similar ones in the future. And in closing, investing more in CCP is a prudent investment. It is a moral investment. It is a necessary investment. Please make that investment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Would you please state your name for the record and provide us with your testimony?
Yes, my name is Ebony Wortham from the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. Thank you, Councilman O and Councilwoman Blackwell and the entire governing body for providing an opportunity for me and other stakeholders to address you on the continued need for and benefits of quality and affordable public higher education for Philadelphians through the Community College of Philadelphia. The Philadelphia District Attorney's Office supports the Community College of Philadelphia because it is the most affordable public higher education option for Philadelphia residents, and because the college plays a pivotal role in shaping and improving the lives of the many young adults who enroll. The District Attorney's Office also supports CCP because public higher education in many ways acts as an unsung law enforcement partner, serving both a preventative and rehabilitative function to the juvenile and criminal justice systems. My name is Ebony Wortham, as I stated, and I'm the supervisor of the juvenile unit at the DA's office. In this capacity, I work with many juvenile justice stakeholders to ensure community protection, victim restoration, and juvenile offender accountability and rehabilitation. Of the many supports that the juvenile justice system may afford a young person, arguably none are greater than identifying and eliminating barriers to increased educational attainment and the enhanced life chances that it provides. Increasing the number of young adults who complete high school and obtain a post-secondary degree has tremendous benefits to the individual, their communities, and the well-being and safety of our beloved city. Higher educational attainment is good for a young adult's overall sense of self, which can serve as a crime deterrent. Graduation and advancement in education can increase feelings of accomplishment and aid in the development of pro-social maturation. Educational attainment has also been linked to the development of patience and risk aversion, which reduces the likelihood of deviant and criminal behavior. Moreover, increased educational attainment also ensures a young person remains connected to structured and rigorous classroom settings beyond high school. Such settings provide a safe place and a positive peer culture for young adults to flourish. And while the rigor of the classroom helps the young adult to develop the critical thinking skills necessary to combat the pull of the street and the educational apathy that plagues so many poor communities of color. Furthermore, public higher education can lead to competitive wages, access to better job opportunities, and a prosperous job market, thus breaking the cycle of intergenerational poverty for so many. Moreover, the achievement of a good job and a social status has a deterrent effect for many young adults, leading them to intentionally avoid the stigma of a criminal conviction. Conversely, lower educational attainment is marked by increased arrests, high violent crime rates, recidivism, mass incarceration, and huge social service costs related to the collateral consequences of justice system involvement, which disproportionately impacts poor communities of color. While the financial costs associated with crime are staggering, we cannot begin to put a price tag on the emotional, physical, and psychological toll that crime takes on an individual, their community, and Philadelphia as a whole. Yet these unmeasurable costs that many mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, police officers, politicians, neighborhoods, community organizers, and praying grandmothers know all too well. However, I think we all know that we cannot incarcerate our way to a safer and more prosperous Philadelphia. The District Attorney of Philadelphia has expressed many times, and it bears repeating here, that we cannot arrest our way out of crime and delinquency. Rather, D.A. Krasner believed that we must invest in education, not incarceration. His drumbeat is more than a notion. It is well settled that there is a correlation between educational attainment and criminality. In fact, the Justice Policy Institute reports that in jurisdictions where high school graduation rates are high, there are positive public safety outcomes. In jurisdictions where large financial investments are made into higher education, there are better public safety outcomes. Additionally, in jurisdictions where there is higher educational attainment, there are lower crime rates. Lastly, it is important to note that while young people will avoid juvenile justice system involvement and go on to obtain higher education and safely transition into adulthood without criminal justice system involvement, many will not be so fortunate. For those youth and young adults, we want to ensure that they are also afforded an opportunity to better themselves. For many, break the chains of intergenerational poverty over their families and go on to lead fuller and more productive adult lives. The Community College of Philadelphia is a critical partner in that quest, allowing open access to everyone, flexible class offerings, and supportive staff. A fully funded CCP would also allow for the development of programs that specifically address the challenges that system-involved and formerly incarcerated persons face, and it is imperative that this governing body enable the Community College of Philadelphia to do so. For the foregoing reasons, the District Attorney of Philadelphia strongly supports the Community College of Philadelphia and urges this body to ensure that it remains a viable educational option for all Philadelphians for generations to come.
All right. Thank you very much. That completes our panel of testimony. We have written testimony submitted by Jeffrey S. Markovitz, English professor, Community College of Philadelphia, and Felicia Hurwitz, Edmond Consulting. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to start calling those persons who have signed up for public comment. I will ask each person at public comment, because there are many people who would like to testify, to try to please keep it to about 4 minutes. Thank you. Clerk?
Pamela Hitchcock, Sherry Cohen, Aisha Cerveni. Okay. The next speakers will be Eric Jenkins, Angela Mascaso, Kamala Sokine.
All right, please have a seat, and if there is an open seat, just help yourself to sit down. Some people may not have been able to stay due to the length of the hearing, but to keep things flowing, would you please state your name and provide us with your testimony?
Yes. Thank you, and thank you for inviting me to speak today. My name is Pamela Hitchcock, and I would like to speak from two viewpoints. One is as the spouse of a professor at community college, and also as someone who has been a part-time student at community college. So I will start with the first. My husband is a professor in the music department at community college, and I have observed and been very cognizant of the work he has done over the years. And he is extremely hardworking, dedicated to his students, and unfortunately has to consistently work overtime so that we can make ends meet. And this is one regard in which fair funding from all parties involved for the college would be an enormous help to us. And second, as a student, the first time I took a course at community college was in 1978. Due to some extreme stress with my parents, I had a disastrous last year at Temple University. I had to later pick up the pieces of my degree. I took an English course at community college, which brought back all my confidence and helped me along on really being able to think and write again, and it made an enormous difference. And from being somebody who wouldn't have been able to get into any other colleges, I was able then to get a master's degree at the University of Pennsylvania. In recent years, thanks to the tuition benefit, I've taken some other courses at community college, including some courses in Spanish, and I can confidently tell you, having taken language courses at any number of colleges, that I would stack up the instructors I had there against anybody I had at Temple, anybody I had had at Penn. They were extremely dedicated and helpful. And in the course of that, I would also take opportunities to help other students in my classes. And I once spent a considerable amount of time tutoring a young woman who had suddenly found herself homeless when her aunt, with whom she was living, lost her house. And seeing the struggle she went through, I can tell you there needs to be fair funding for CCP because the students have enormous needs and need great numbers of supports. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, would you please state your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Angela Moscoso, and I'm a student at CCP. 3.5 years ago, I found myself in an Uber ride with a professor from CCP. At that point in time, I was not enrolled in school. I had 3 failed attempts to go to school because I came from a very low-income family. I couldn't ask my parents for money, and putting myself in debt, like many of my generation, was not an option. This professor showed so much passion for the school and for the work that was being done there at the school that I realized that I had to take another chance to go to school. That professor told me that CCP would be there to help. And 3 years later, I'm 4 classes away from graduating. I'm a student ambassador for the school, one of 15 out of our student body. I am Pi Theta Kappa, which is International Honor Society, and I am a Spanish woman who is a biology major with a 3.7 GPA. That first conversation was only the first time that I had a professor help me there at the school outside of their school class hours. 2 years ago, I was also diagnosed with cancer. Every day, I would get emails, I would get calls, I would get texts from my professors checking in on me. This was on their own time. This was outside of their 12 hours of teaching. This was outside of their office hours, outside of grading labs and grading papers and helping any student who may come to help, or the clubs that they decide they want to help with also out of their goodness of their own heart. I had a professor who took their time to check in with me, and it's that professor who has kept me in that school this long. It is that help that has gotten me this far. 12 hours is nowhere close to how many hours the CCP professors put into their students. I am also now a full scholarship student with over $7,000 in scholarships this year alone. Not a single one could have been achieved without the time and letters that my professors have given me out of their own time. I support my CCP professors because they have supported me. They have continued to only show support and want for my success. Less time for students is not the answer. This is how we hurt the students. Students who may have never had anyone else believe in them. Philadelphia is a unique city with unique needs, and we need that need to be met, not to bury it, and not to make those professors who have made CCP what it is today have to put more stress on their own lives. If I could, and I would give every single one of them a gold star and an A+. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let me just note for the record that we're joined by Councilman Cindy Bass. All right, and
Thank you.
would you please state your name for the record and provide us our testimony? Of course, we all know Sherry Cohen, so thank you for being here.
Thank you, Councilman O. Hello, Councilwoman Blackwell and Bass. My name is Sherry Cohen, and I'm a candidate for City Council at large. I stand in solidarity with the students, the staff, and the faculty of Community College of Philadelphia, and with their union, the Faculty and Staff Federation of CCP. I support the demand that the city and state meet their legal obligation to equally fund CCP, along with the student body. Because the city is only providing 19% of CCP's operating budget currently, and the state is only providing 24%, the financial burden has been placed on students, who now provide 55% of the school's budget through their tuition and fees. CCP has almost 30,000 students. 75% are students of color, and over 50% self-identify as Black. The budget of CCP must not be carried on the backs of its students. This amounts to a backdoor privatization of public education. In fact, it totals an underfunding by the city in this academic year alone of over $18 million. I also stand with the Faculty and Staff Federation of CCP in their contract demands and their fight for 3 fair contracts. I support the preservation of their current workload, decent salary raises to ensure a living wage, no increase to their health care costs, maintenance of part-time faculty jobs, and no gutting of faculty and staff governance. Pennsylvania ranks 47th out of 50 states in higher education spending, and we are the state with the highest level of student loan debt. 44% of CCP students take out loans. The only way for Philadelphia to no longer be the poorest big city in the nation is for us to value education and ensure affordable access to higher education. Philadelphia must step up and pay its fair share. We demand that Philadelphia meet its legal obligation and pay 33.3% of CC's budget now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, would you please identify yourself for the record and provide us with your testimony?
My name is Eric Jenkins, and I'm a member of Socialist Alternative. And first thing I'd like to say is we stand in complete solidarity with the CCP professors and students who are ready to fight for the education that working class people deserve. We have a right to high quality public education from early childcare to college, and CCP provides a vital opportunity for Philadelphians to access that right. However, the decades of budget cuts and underfunding have created a chronic financial crisis for both the Philadelphia public schools and for CCP. 44% of CCP students require student loans. I should know, formerly I was one of them. 50% default. The city hasn't fulfilled its obligation to covering 1/3 of CCP's operating costs since 1983, making students, teachers, and students shoulder the burdens of the city's negligence. The administration is now proposing 120 students a professor. Vast amounts of current support staff make only $12 an hour on a livable wage. Despite this, the administration is focusing on tackling the wages, benefits, and working conditions of teachers and staff. The administration should be focused on solving the real problems of CCP, such as lowering class sizes, improving the quality of education with more support staff, not less. The city has the money to do this, but instead it is given to rich real estate developers who are building tax-abated luxury housing and pushing working class families out of neighborhoods they live for generations. Corporations like Comcast and Verizon pay little to no taxes while making massive amounts of profits. Instead of more cuts, we demand a focus on new revenue that taxes the corporations and developers. The CCP administration, and unfortunately, some on the city council will make excuses, hopefully not the ones that are present here. They'll talk about the limitations, they'll plead to be pragmatic and for patience. But we know what tool stops the excuses and a way to secure that vote in city council, and that's through strikes and rallies. The recent teacher strikes across the country, such as West Virginia and Oakland, show the only way to win, mobilizing working class communities into the streets. Philly unions need to stand with CCP professors and rebuild a fighting labor movement centered on demands that uplift the worker both in and out of the workplace, such as Medicare for all, affordable housing, free college, and an end to mass incarceration. If you want an example, look at Bernie's platform. Finally, as a socialist, I believe in fighting for reforms, but I also believe that the situation we're in is deeply rooted in the economic system that we live in under capitalism. It's time to revitalize a fighting labor movement and a mass working class party that fights for the far-reaching socialist transformation of society. I'd like to end it by saying I support CCP faculty and staff in their fight for a fair contract. No more cuts to public education. Fully fund CCP now. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much. Would you please state your name and provide us with your testimony?
My name is Camila Zucchiene. I am a former student of CCP. I will enroll in the College of Education at Temple University. Without having gone to CCP, I wouldn't be able to do that. My associate's degree has allowed me to further my career and get my family out of poverty. So I'm very thankful to what I was able to achieve through CCP, but it was through hardship, not only for myself and my family, but through teachers not being paid enough. So right now I work retail and I make on average more than a CCP part-time educator. So what do we want to have foment in our education? We need to compensate them for their time and their efforts in order to take more people out of poverty, like me and my family.
Thank you very much. I'll ask the clerk to call the next set of witnesses.
Alicia King, John Skelton, Jason Esters, Donatus Zukas.
Thank you very much. Please take your seats. We have several more people after you, so please try to keep it in around 3 minutes. And would you please identify yourself for the record and provide us with your testimony?
Sure. Thank you so much for being here and taking up this very important matter. My name is Elisa King. I am a faculty member in the counseling department at Community College of Philadelphia, and I'm a licensed counselor in the state of Pennsylvania. Financial issues and financial struggles are a very present and pressing issue for many, many of our students. As a counselor, one of the things that we focus on is helping our students to work through and remove barriers for them to be able to academically achieve the things that they want to achieve. And so I cannot stress enough how important it is that the city of Philadelphia fulfill its commitment to community college and fully fund the college. Because, and I want to tell you my story because I think it kind of illustrates where so many of our students come from. I am an Afro-Latina woman. I was born in the Dominican Republic. I came to the States when I was 12 years old. I went to public schools. I went to community college, not Community College of Philadelphia, but I went to a community college and graduated with no debt. After graduating, I was able to move to the state of Pennsylvania, and I was making twice the minimum wage at that time as a college student because I had an associate's degree, and that put me through my undergraduate, my second 2 years of college. Now, when I look at the amount of debt that many of our students are getting in, and that is not sufficient for them to still be able to live and go to school and do all the things that they have to do, it really saddens me because I understand that my community prepared me, to move forward with my life and really gave me a great opportunity. I sit in front of you as a 36-year-old with 2 master's degrees. I would not be who I am today if it wasn't because of a community college. We are that place that gives people who are minorities, who might be immigrants, who might not have the opportunity to go, to 4-year institutions, to pay for, room and board at a 4-year institution. We give them the opportunity to take their families out of poverty. That's what community colleges do, and that's one of the reasons why after working in human services for many, many years and trying to fix so many problems, right, trying to really help communities, I decided that I wanted to work in higher education because I understand, and specifically community college. Philadelphia is such a great city. I'm a transplant to the city, and I love Philadelphia. I love the diversity here. I love the people here. And it has such a great history and a great legacy. And I believe that enabling the poorest people in this community, and not just the poorest people that might just by choice be able to choose Community College of Philadelphia, to do that and do that affordably, because we know the cost of education is very expensive. It's just going to continue to make this city the great city that it is. And so I hope that yourselves and other council people would fund the school at the rate that it's supposed to be funded. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Please state your name for the record and provide your testimony.
Hello, my name is Donato Zukas, and I'm an alumni of Community College of Philadelphia. Growing up as a first-generation immigrant, coming from Lithuania, I graduated high school and I ended up getting into the point where I applied for every college, and it turned out to be that their tuition was not affordable. Because of my immigration status, I could not take out a loan. So that's how come I ended up being in a community college. And going there, I was very impressed about the experience they provided me. That it was excellent staff. Everyone always looked out for each other. There was also a lot of student activities which provided me with excellent networking opportunities. And on top of that, I graduated with a 3.8 GPA from community college without having any aspirations to go anywhere because none of the other colleges after graduation were affordable. Several years after, 5 years after that, I finally got my permanent residency status, and I could take out a loan and go to Temple University. If not community college, all of the hard work that everyone had put into me and quality education and all the transfer credits from community college, I probably would not be here today, also graduating from Temple University in May. And I gotta thank to all of the staff and all of the students who later on became very big assets when it came to my networking and achieving where I am today. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, would you state your name for the record and provide us with your testimony?
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Esters. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of English at Community College of Philadelphia. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up today is that Philadelphia has an obligation to not just CCP students, but also to itself, to meet the level of commitment and investment that CCP students make in the city of Philadelphia, and not just financially. And let me explain to you a little bit what I mean. On Thursday, my 4 children were tutored in Mandarin by a CCP student, not someone that was actually attending CCP classes, but a young woman who's part of the Gear Up program at CCP. Gear Up and Gateway to College are programs that actually help students who, for whatever reason, had to leave school but are working towards their GED. So she's currently working on her GED at CCP, and she tutors Mandarin to people in Philadelphia. That was Thursday. On Friday, I realized my brakes were squeaky, and I took my car to a local mechanic. That local mechanic, who looked at my car, looked at my ID and said, "Hey, I went to CCP." And you know what? So does the person who owns this facility. That was Friday. On Saturday, I had a meeting with some like-minded individuals who had gathered together to actually talk about emergency preparedness and sustainability issues around the city. And as we were getting ready to sit down and talk, there was a person who was videographing the interaction. And as I talked to him, he said, "Hey, I just graduated last year from CCP." That was Saturday. On Sunday evening, I got an email from a colleague. The email said something to the effect of, "Hey, Jason, I had my nails done on Saturday evening, and when I was getting my nails done, I was talking to the person who did my nails, and they just talked about taking your class over at the Northeast campus and how much they enjoyed it and how much they learned, and most importantly, that they really felt like they were doing really well in the next class." And my colleague said, I asked them, "Well, what did they get most out of your class?" And they said, "It wasn't just the class, it was the feeling that I could do this and do more." The interesting thing about CCP students is that they conquer one of the issues that a lot of college towns and a lot of university towns face, which is the brain drain. Their most talented students oftentimes leave the immediate area where they get their education. That's not so with CCP students. You can bet your bottom dollar that CCP students, they stay in Philadelphia. They invest their time, their effort, their expertise in the city, not only for their own lives, but also because they love this place. They love this city. And as they want to see themselves get better, they want to see the city get better. They invest their time and effort in the city. One of the great things about teaching at an institution with CCP is that it's not uncommon to have those kinds of interactions with students. Faculty members, staff members, we see each other as family. And we see each other investing not just time and effort in one another, but building the community that is CCP. The city of Philadelphia needs to be part of that process too. I taught a class last night. I had my students in class. We were talking about English stuff because I'm an English professor. And as we got to the end of the class, I'm asking, does anybody have any final questions? And I have a student who says, "You know, I don't want to ask you about the class stuff. I get the class stuff. I want to ask you about something else." And I say, "Fine." And she says, "Do you ever feel like giving up?" And I had to take a minute and spend about 20 minutes just talking to the class and encouraging them that we all have bad days. We all make mistakes. We all sometimes have these moments where we feel like we can't get to where we're really going. And I wanted to just encourage them as a class that even though we all have those kind of days, you always have to have right before you that vision. You have to have before you that goal. You have to have before you that aspiration, that thing that you can continually move forward to try and get to, so that you can actually say to yourself at some point in time, even though the days get hard, I can continue to move forward. Somebody once told me that, faith moves mountains, sometimes a shovel full at a time. And that's kind of the perspective that I want to give my students last night. Why do I tell this story? I tell this story quite simply to say that the level of investment professors and staff people and people that work at CCP, the expectation we know we have is that we're going to give more than just reading, writing, and arithmetic. Part of our goal is to invest that time and that inspiration in our students so that they can continue to improve. That's a lot harder to do without the financial support of this resolution. The most important thing, I think, is that the investment that the city of Philadelphia needs to make isn't just financial, it's a moral investment. And it's a moral investment in terms of the kinds of inequalities that our students face. Educational inequalities, I know. I actually grew up not in Philadelphia, I grew up in the state of Mississippi, where abject poverty is a constant, where educational and savage inequalities are a daily thing. In a lot of ways, Philadelphia and the surrounding area is not that different. We in Mississippi have seen the effects of segregation and racial inequality. And don't underestimate how this resolution and the lack of funding for CCP is an issue of racial disparity, is an issue of educational inequality that has really real life implications. And so Philadelphia owes it to its students and owes it to the students of CCP in order to address that inequality, because not doing something is doing something. And I want to leave you just with this. I was in a Bible study, and at the Bible study, someone asked a question, well, how do you wrestle with the issues of good and evil? And the person leading the Bible study said it like this, and I think they got this from an older pastor. Within us, there are always a war between good and evil, and it's like it's two dogs inside. And so the congregant asked, well, who's going to win? And then the one leading the Bible study said, the one that you feed. Philadelphia has an opportunity to feed the good, to feed the equality, to feed the students who are already giving back so much to our institution and also to the city at large. So I thank you all for your comments.
Thank you very much. All right, I believe we have our last speaker. Would you please take a seat at the table?
Hello, how are you? My name is John Skelton. I am alumni at CCP. So I'm just going to keep this brief and very quick. Most of the stuff that you've heard here today is what we're all fighting for, and I don't want to be a part of the redundancy in saying the same thing. What I want to contribute is my story and the fact that I resonate so much with these students as far as experiencing poverty, experiencing not having the opportunity to be something more than what you are. Coming to CCP was one of the main reasons of wanting to change that and change myself. When I enrolled in CCP, I was suffering from major depression, suffering from suicide thoughts and attempts and things of that nature that kept me from achieving. If it hadn't have been for the faculty, it had been for the professors who constantly put in time to talk to me either before class or after class, encouraging me to keep it moving, encouraging me to constantly pursuing whatever it is that I wanted to do. If it wasn't for them to taking out their time to do that, I would not be a year in grad school. and I would not be working on my third degree if it wasn't for them taking the time outside of class to bring me to the corner or just to say, hey, I'm thinking of you today. And I believe that these faculty members and these professors are doing the same thing for the students that are now current students at CCP. And I'm not just here fighting for the faculty and them, but I'm also here fighting for the students as well. This is a very serious issue, and it needs to be addressed. And these faculty members need this money in order to proceed and to keep whatever it is that we need moving forward. Us as students and us as young adults, we are the next generation to carry on trying to make sure that the world consistently moves in a positive light. Without that, without the funding, without the professors and the faculty being there for that, then how can we? So if you could just find it in your hearts to really understand what it is that we're crying for, to really understand what it is and how important it is for us to take that next step in order to make sure that all of these other students that are coming behind me are just as successful as I am, or maybe much more, then I feel that that is the beginning of bridging the gap and making sure that we are consistently moving forward in a positive light to make sure that change is definitely our number one priority. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. Before we conclude, I'll ask Councilwoman Bass if she has any statement to make.
Well, I do. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say that many moons ago when I was a student at the Parkway program here in Philadelphia in 1984, I believe it was, I had the opportunity to attend Community College of Philadelphia through a program. Parkway back then was known as the School Without Walls. So we had the ability to take classes in all different sorts of places, and CCP was one of those places. And I'll never forget, as being the first person in my family to graduate from college, just the feeling of being on a college campus and how deeply that left an impression on me. It's a wonderful thing because from my neighborhood, these opportunities didn't happen, they did not exist. And so I would like to be on record as being a strong supporter of making sure that we have access for all Philadelphians into CCP, that there are programs and opportunities that will allow as many folks as possible to have that wonderful experience that I had, that I know I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the opportunity that I had at CCP. So I want to be on record as being a strong supporter of any and all efforts to make sure that we fund CCP as much as we possibly can, obviously, and much further than what is being proposed right now. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. My co-chairman, Councilwoman Janie Blackwell, do you have any statement to make?
I would like to thank all who are here to testify on behalf of CCP, from the president on down to the teachers, professors, and students. And I'm hopeful that we can work out all the needs you have. We hear about the complaints, and we want everything to be worked out because, as has been said, we support our community college 1,000%. We wouldn't be the city we are without all of you, and we say thank you, and we are definitely for this resolution. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman O.
Thank you very much. So I'll conclude with this. This is a resolution, it's a hearing, it's recorded. It is a resolution that was passed in council. The issues have been raised. There are differences in any democracy where people prioritize things differently. Somehow, however, I do believe that this is something that council and the administration can agree on. Maybe it'll take time, but I do think it is something that we can agree on. Once a student hits 17 or 18, that is the end of their free education in Philadelphia. There's already inequity, great inequity in our public school system. However, that all ends at once they graduate 12th grade, if they graduate 12th grade. But community college offers a solution, a real solution, and it could be so much more than it is with just us meeting our obligation. A robust campus, main campus, satellite campuses, technology, new classes and programs, work experiences. The main thing that I think about is the fact that in reality, our city has a median household income of $37,000. The brightest young people cannot afford most of our colleges, and they would be lost if it wasn't for Community College of Philadelphia. And from there, they have so many options, but they have to have that option first. I went to college, and I couldn't afford college. My family couldn't afford college. My brother came from Korea. He was born and raised in Korea. And he went to high school, and when we came to Philadelphia, he tried to go to Penn, but they wouldn't accept him because his grades were from Korea. So he went to community college, and from community college, he went to Penn. And he got his PhD in electrical engineering. I went to Dickinson College at a time where tuition was $5,600 a year. I think it's like 60 now. And I say that because I could work my way through college, literally. And I went to Rutgers Law School. I think the tuition was $3,000 per year. I could work my way through law school. But that's not a reality anymore. The cost of education is prohibitive to bright, talented people simply because they don't have the ability to pay for it. And here is this wonderful solution that provides everyone a great opportunity. We have to make it the best it could be. This process is a competition of dollars. There are no dollars uncalled for. There are people who deeply believe, they're passionate about the dollars they have, they don't want to give it up. It is upon you and us to decide whether investing dollars in community college is more important, creates more of a difference. It is a competition over those dollars. I'm sorry to put it that way, but that's what it is. So you have to understand that. We have to know what we're doing. We have to go in with the mindset that every dollar spent here will do so much good, so much more good, that it is very much worth it. So with that, I will ask my co-chair, shall we conclude this hearing?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. And everyone, thank you for being here.